Rashee Rice is ready to roll in 2024. He's going to be on the field, and a lot more today from Brett Veach on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Starting here on YouTube, please like and sub, because I'm going to tell you all about what Brett Veach had to say today and what we know that Rashee Rice is available for this season in its entirety. That's coming up here in a little bit. Make sure that once you're subbed here on YouTube, go out to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, get on those as well. Hit our text line at 816-357-8781 to get in the know. Make sure that you follow Chris over on Chiefs Corner. You can find that in the links below. Chris is out for a few days. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where I run all kinds of lead into either being a selection or a UDFA, some things that Brett Veach spoke about today. We appreciate you making us your first listen to another Locked On show for your next one. Maybe a division rival, maybe a national show. You can find them all. So please check that out and let us know what you think. Like and sub and do the whole 9 yards. Excited for today because there's a lot of things that still have to come that we're going to have to keep an eye on. That's coming later in the show. And we're going to get in the second segment up to all my theories that Brett Veach has confirmed at this point. There are a lot of them, but we start right now with job number one. The news of the day is somewhat overshadowed here, but Rashee Rice will be on the field week one, ready to go. We got news. There is no NFI list coming for Rashee Rice. They have determined the NFL will not put him on the non-football injury list, therefore taking him off the field and out of the building in 2024 for his off-the-field issues. Right now, as it stands, if there's a material change, which means something consequential that changes in the case, then they may revisit it. But until that point, right now, you're going to have Rashee Rice, not only to begin the season here in week one against the Ravens, where he will be very, very instrumental, but throughout the season, and most importantly, through the playoffs, because of the schedule of the off-the-field incident and court appearances, etc. They are punting until then. They're going to let the justice system run its course, see what the outcomes are before they make any kind of decision. So from my point of view, that lets us all take a deep breath. It tells you that the Chiefs don't have to worry or keep backup plan after backup plan after backup plan ready for that. Although part of this whole scenario did play in to what we just saw. So yes, Rashee Rice is going to be with them. He's going to pick up where he left off. Hopefully that's a load off of his shoulders, at least for now, so that he can continue to progress. I think he's looked pretty good in camp. I think we've seen a couple of moments, but we have to see the launching point from here. And it's not just what he's able to do. It's what he's able to do in tandem with other players. And he will have his cohort of the top 3 players will be available sooner maybe than we had cautiously been thinking. Brett Veach did his annual preseason kind of roundup with the press today, and his answers shed a lot of light on what they're doing. Hollywood Brown update is good in that he's able to move. Brett Veach even talked about him laughing without pain. That's a big step because you can't really laugh or expand your chest without moving that joint. So that is progress. He was very hesitant, but kept referring to he's close to Tyreek's original timeline, which would put him ahead of what I've cautiously been telling you. Because on the outset, it looked like it could be 4-ish weeks. When they elected not to do IR, Brett Veach confirmed that they don't feel that he needs to be out that long. If they did, they would just give him the rest and let him sit. So by getting to that point, my guess is right now that he will miss the Ravens game, possible for Cincinnati, and should be good to go after that. If that timeline tracks and continues to track what Tyreek Hill was able to do with a similar injury. Now, that isn't all the same for the same player. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. So the goal would be to get all your receivers onto the field and get Hollywood back out there with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. But what if you can't? What do? You rely on experience. And that's what this coaching staff does. We've had a lot of discussions through training camp about why they choose certain players over others. Experience is one of the uber factors when it comes to Andy Reid and Brett Veach making their decisions for the roster. It also includes when they make acquisitions. Brett Veach clued us into Juju Smith-Schuster is back because of his experience in this offense. And one of my favorite terms we'll talk about coming up is an allegory to keeping him in a role that he can use that experience. So now you have a group of players that can do everything that you need and that has the experience that you feel you can maximize going into a season where you don't have a lot of room for error. You don't have to win every game. This isn't about trying to be undefeated. This is about making sure that you get to the postseason in good enough shape to make that postseason run and take home that championship. There's a lot of factors in that. The passing game's only going to be one of them, but everybody on this roster at the wide receiver room, except for Xavier Worthy, has some experience that they can draw from. And quite frankly, with that around him, I think that helps negate some of the inexperience Xavier Worthy has. They've done a lot of continued education, even when he was off the field in OTAs, making sure that he's getting the mental reps to be ready to go as the one guy who, yes, has the top end speed, but has the deficit mentally and experience-wise of just not being in the offense before. I think all this is to mitigate the fact that they don't want to have a slow passing game ever again. They don't want to have bad offensive linemen, and they don't want to have a missing passing game. Those are the bottom lines. What do they want to have? A number of things and a number of criteria goes into every single decision. Brett Veach gave us some confirmations about some of the things that we've been looking at for the offensive line, for the receivers, for the stars of tomorrow. That's coming up right after this. If you get tired after lunch, you're not alone. Whether it's just getting to the recording or when it's time to go edit, it hits me late in the day. In fact, research shows that more than 70% of us hit the wall after lunch sometime in the afternoon. Let a 5-hour energy shot help you leap over the wall instead of crashing into it. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore, from watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and every other flavor for everyone. You can try them all if you want. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You can choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and you get some 5-Hour Energy products today, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONFB, and you're going to get 20% off of that order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good for subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Make sure you check out Locked On Fantasy Football today, because you want to get that information from Vinny Iyer setting you up for your fantasy drafts that I know I'm participating in. And I know you will want to as well. Check it out. It's part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm excited about this. And Chris is going to be back next week or soon, folks. So just bear with us as I run some of these solo, because this is going to be entertaining for me anyway, especially when I can get confirmation from what I've seen from my eyes, matching what Brett Veach and the staff in the front office see. A couple of things that are really important. And just following up on the wide receiver thing, Brett Veach referred to some of these positions as components. Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster playing similar roles, same position, where they can do the same thing. He also stated, with Hollywood out, it is Mecole Hardman in the same role as being able to do what Xavier Worthy can do. So it really is about role and ability, not necessarily having to do everything all at once. There are specifics that they do look at. Now, yes, they want them to know every single position for the wide receivers, but they also have paradigms that are the athletes that they are, and they rely on that. Furthermore, Pirine has been brought in specifically in mind with being a third down back. Didn't go so far as to really compare him to Jet McKinnon, but a similar concept, and just treated it as, this is a player that can help you right now in what is one of the few positions, as we've been telling you, that they needed to look at in running back, edge, corner, little bit of everything. That certainly was confirmed. Now he is in the building. Haven't seen him in practice yet. Haven't seen him. He is at practice. Should be good to go. Meeting with the coaches. Should be signed here rather quickly. So Samaje Perine jumping into the pan. Brett Veach thinks he should be able to play versus the Ravens. We're going to find out as the week goes on. It is full prep for the Ravens now as we move past this kind of figuring out who we are time. The front office will still keep an eye out. We'll talk about that later in the show. But it is about settling down and focusing in on your first opponent. And to have that opponent, you have to be able to rush the passer. You have to be able to have enough depth. Brett Veach confirmed they want to carry 5 defensive ends every year. That's what they're looking to do. They went out and got Cam Thomas, one of my draft crushes from the other year that I'm really, really happy to hear Brett Veach and his staff see it the same way I do, in that he is a fit in this defense. They liked him coming out. They thought he was a good fit for this system with a couple of things. Not only the way that he attacks the game, but high motor and has specific George Karlaftis-like traits, meaning he's straight line explosive. He brings the power. He's got high energy. Yes, he needs to work on some hand technique. Yes, he needs to be a little bit more dynamic in his pad level. This last year, fish out of water playing in a stand-up 2-point stance, trying to be an outside linebacker. But I think he will reap some benefits from having to play in a 2-foot stance because he will have to be more dynamic. You put him back down on the ground, coming out of a 3-point with his hand in the dirt, I think he's going to be better off, and I think that's going to pay dividends. Maybe not in the first quarter of the season, but certainly after the bye and as it goes on. So really happy to hear that that's confirmed as well. Then a couple of departures that we understand some of the concepts around now. For Brett Veach, they still feel like there's a lot of talent in Kadarius Toney and that he may have a chance to catch on somewhere else. But it came down to the fact that he wasn't healthy enough to put in the work to make the roster. And that is a nice way of saying that it just didn't get the job done. You can complain about it. You can theorize about why, but at the end of the day, the job didn't get done so that you were able to be a contributor any longer. But he did give him credit that they don't win that Super Bowl without his contributions and having made that trade. So kudos to him as well. You got to take the good with the bad in some of these situations. And that certainly does give you the idea about how flexible you have to be sometimes with players that have to continue to move along in their development and in your system. System is what a lot of it is. And that's something that Louis Rees-Zammit was not able to latch on to yet either. They still had interest in bringing him back, but also could see that he had better opportunities. As I told you the other day, the playtime aspect is there. Landing in Jacksonville is something that Brett Veach called a good fit. And I'll tell you why, because Doug Peterson's there. That is the sole reason, because Doug will be able to pick up where Andy and Brett left off, and the rest of the coaching staff. I'm not trying to marginalize anyone. Because of the similarities in the way they see the game, that Doug came up under Andy and understands what he wants, I do foresee something down the line where he will either sign to the 53 in Jacksonville. Hopefully he progresses to that point. Or he gets to the point where he's made some increases, but they can't get him onto the roster. There's an opportunity possibly for the Chiefs to try and go and grab him back. There's also a possibility that he decides American football is not as fun as rugby, and I'm going to go back to that. We're going to have to wait a little bit to see when that happens. Now, there's a lot of options around that, but that's not the only thing that's going on. There's also a little bit of work going on in the front office, and confirmed today that they are working on Trey Smith. Nick Bolton a little bit farther down the line, but they understand they had to get Creed done first. That, I think, especially when you know you're inching towards a market-setting deal, you got to go get that done so that you can kind of scratch that off and leave yourself enough room to operate in a secondary instead of flipping it. Though it may have been simpler, it leaves you without as much certainty as you want, trying to go into a major negotiation like that. So it does make sense where Brett Veach was at in trying to get Creed, and now they can work on Trey Smith. And I love that concept. I certainly hope that they can pull it off. And it sounds like they're working hard to get there. That's going to continue, as is everything else. How do they develop these players, and what are they still looking for? And yes, Brett Veach is still looking for talent out there. We're going to talk about that coming up next. Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors, because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. And make sure that you are subscribed here on the YouTube channel, out there on any podcast platform that you prefer. You can get us for free. Hit 816-357-8781 to get on the text line. That's where our insiders are always at. And breaking news, that's where we release it first. Make sure you're signed up there as well. Now, I want to look towards the future, because they're not done. Brett Veach was very clear that they will continue to look for talent at a couple of positions in particular. Mostly on the defensive front, at the defensive tackle position and at the cornerback position, because you never have enough and you're always churning the bottom. I think that's important, because he did hollow out that Turk Wharton's had a very good preseason, that you have Mike Pennell kind of playing above his age level. Good for Mike. And that gives you some options. But it also means that you have to be cognizant of the fact that something could go wrong there. And you do have Derek Nottie, who's coming off of a significant injury. I know he played a lot in the last preseason game. I don't think he's near 100%. So don't be surprised if there's still a defensive tackle acquisition out there. I don't see a ton right now. Maybe they have to look at a trade. Maybe they have to see something else. But it also hinges on the fact that this team has the whole season planned out. They understand what's going to happen, and they understand the cog that will come back into the fold when Charles Omenihu returns. That's something we don't get into a whole lot, even on this channel, where we try to break it down from a really systemic version. You'll hear me this week and next week about some of these little details that are a little bit more instinctual over on RGR Football. So make sure you go over there and check out my other channel, as well as NFL 33, where I break down all of the NFL, the stories that mean something from my standpoint, so you know what's going on around the league. Omenihu's return will help. And again, he has inside-outside versatility, as do a number of players. Mike Dana, Herring, now Cam Thomas, who even the Cardinals were experimenting putting inside at times. Everybody can rotate through that role pretty much and have some kind of reps on the inside as a pass rusher. And that just goes towards putting your athletes in the best positions to go attack the quarterback as best they can. Doesn't matter whether they stand up or they're outside or they're inside or wherever it is. Beat the man in front of you and go get the QB. That's the plan. And I think that helps. It also helps that you have a pretty sensational rookie ready to really pitch in the safety room. And that is Jaden Hicks. Obviously, we've been watching. We've been very happy. Well, Tyrann Mathieu is happy as well. I think a lot of folks were kind of surprised to learn that Brett Veach and Tyrann Mathieu still text each other, because you have those kind of relationships, especially when you make Tyrann your leader and you bring him into a big contract to really run your defensive staff back in the day. That's a connection that isn't really going to fade unless there's some kind of bad blood there, and there certainly doesn't appear to be. So that's good to hear as well. And in Tyrann Mathieu's actual quote is that 21's a stud and he's ready to see it. And that is confirmation, again, that you just have to have fits. You don't have to have a consensus first-round pick to be a guy that walks into the defense and is going to play. It can be a fourth-round pick that fits what you do. It is scheme over evaluation, but they have to match up. You have to see the player be able to get there, and that's something that we saw in Hicks. We're really happy with that. And I think that that's going to pay off dividends. The other aspect of what Brett Veach has to continue to look for is talent. He said it's very tricky to develop linebackers and safeties. And so with Hicks being able to walk in and learn and be able to be effective early, that gives you a little bit of a leg up. Obviously, the backup linebackers have been a question this whole preseason, with Jack Cochran and Cam Jones both making it, but both still leaving some things to be desired. That development is going to have to continue, and it's going to be an ongoing process. As for the cornerback spot, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. They brought in Scott because he looks to be an upgrade over what they had in Nick Jones. Okay, that's fine. They're not done. If there's a release, if there's somebody that stands out, maybe they have to go make a trade if they start to feel like injuries could pile up. Because you got to remember, everybody ahead of them has something going on except Trent McDuffie. So let's give everybody in this room the best chance to be able to heal and not have to play hurt and put the team at risk because of that, by making sure that you continue to churn the bottom half of the roster, the guys that have to play special teams, but then can come up. That's going to be key. You're going to see special team snaps from the corners, maybe not as much as you used to because of the linebacker depth, and even the acquisition of Hendershot was specifically called out by Brett Veach to be a special teams kind of role because you need that from the tight end room. Another offshoot that we're going to talk about next week is what comes from Hendershot and his special teams ability and what that unleashes in this offense. So don't miss that. I'm really intrigued and excited about this one aspect. We're going to break that down for you on Monday, so don't miss it. I hope that you guys are having a good week and you're ready for real football. Short week next week as we get ready for the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody in the NFL will be watching because everybody gets to see it, including you and I. I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure that you like and you sub and you are with us for next week because it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready for actual football to continue, and I think you guys will be enjoying it as well. We have a ton coming for you. Chris will be back. Matt will be back. We have great coverage planned and rolled out for your 2024 Kansas City Chiefs and their run towards a three-peat. So thank you for spending your time with me today, especially putting up with my solo routine here as I talk to myself. Make sure that you're back on Monday because we got to go towards Baltimore. Have a great weekend.